I bought flowers from a roadside stand. Then my wife found a "Rest in Peace" card inside. The water in the vase was turning a murky, unsettling shade of gray, which was strange because I had just filled it last night. I stood in my kitchen, rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, watching my wife, Sarah, hum happily as she trimmed the stems of the massive, sprawling bouquet I had surprised her with for Valentine's Day. It was Sunday morning. The chaos of the holiday was over, replaced by the quiet, comfortable intimacy of a lazy weekend. "These are gorgeous, babe," Sarah said, snipping a thick green stalk with the kitchen shears. "Seriously? Where did you find lilies this big? The grocery store usually has the sad, drooping kind." "Got lucky," I said, leaning against the counter with my coffee. "Found a pop-up stand on the side of Route 9. Guy said he buys direct from the wholesaler. $20. Can you believe it? $20. Sarah paused, a stem in her hand. "That's incredibly cheap. These are calla lilies. And orchids. This arrangement would cost like $200 at a florist." "Maybe they fell off a truck," I joked. "Or maybe he just didn't want to carry inventory past the holiday." Sarah laughed, but it was distracted. She was frowning at something deep inside the greenery. She reached in with her fingers, pushing aside a fern frond that smelled damp and earthy, too earthy, like wet soil after a rainstorm. "There's something stuck in here," she muttered. "Did you leave the receipt in the bundle?" "No. I paid cash." "No receipt." She tugged. It was wedged tight, caught between the thorny stems of a rose and the thick stalk of a lily. "It feels like plastic," she said. She pulled harder. With a wet slurp, the object came free. It was a small, rectangular card. Laminated. The edges were sealed with heavy plastic, designed to withstand the elements. It was wet, dripping slightly onto the granite countertop. Sarah wiped it off with her sleeve. She flipped it over. Her humming stopped abruptly. The shears clattered onto the counter. "Noah," she whispered. Her voice was thin, trembling. "What is it? Did I leave the price tag on?" She turned around slowly. Her face was pale, all the color drained away, leaving her looking like she had just seen a ghost. She held the card out to me. Her hand was shaking so bad the lamination rattled. I took it. I looked at the text printed in elegant, somber script against a background of praying hands and clouds. "In loving memory. Margaret and Miller. 1945 to 2024. Beloved grandmother, mother, and friend. Rest in peace." I stared at the card. My brain refused to process the information. Margaret and Miller. 1945, rest in peace. This wasn't a florist card. This wasn't a "Happy Valentine's Day" note. This was a prayer card. A funeral card. The kind they hand out at wakes. The kind they leave on. I looked at the flowers. The massive, beautiful, suspiciously cheap flowers. "Noah," Sarah's voice cracked. "Where did you get these?" "I told you," I stammered, backing away from the bouquet as if it were radioactive. "The stand on Route 9. The guy with the white truck." "These aren't from a wholesaler," Sarah whispered, pointing a shaking finger at the lilies. "Look at the ribbon. Look at the way they're tied." I looked closer. Buried deep in the arrangement, tangled around the base of the stems, was a shred of thick, purple satin ribbon. It had gold lettering on it. The letters were cut off, but I could read the end of the phrase. "You are hearts. Forever in our hearts." The realization hit me like a physical blow to the stomach. The damp, earthy smell. The price. The mix of expensive, out-of-season flowers that didn't match. These weren't leftovers. These were stolen. They were stolen from a grave. "Oh my God," I said, feeling bile rise in my throat. I gave you dead people's flowers. Sarah dropped the shears into the sink. She looked at the vase like it was filled with blood. Get them out. Get them out of my house. I grabbed the vase. I ran to the back door and hurled the entire thing, glass, water, flowers, into the backyard. It shattered on the patio pavers. The flowers scattered, lying there like a gruesome, colorful crime scene. I stood there, panting, staring at the wreckage. I felt dirty. I felt complicit. But then, the anger came. It wasn't just disgust anymore. It was rage. Someone had walked onto hallowed ground, desecrated a resting place, and sold the spoils to me for $20 so I could give them to my wife. I'm calling the police, I said. Wait, Sarah said. She had followed me to the door. She was holding the laminated card. She turned it over. On the back was a sticker. A small, gold foil sticker from a funeral home. Oakwood Memorial Services. Service date, February 14, 2026. 10 a.m. Yesterday. The funeral was yesterday morning. The flowers were fresh because the grief was fresh. The soil on the stems was damp because the grave had just been filled. They stole them the same day, Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her face. Margaret, her family probably hasn't even left town yet. I looked at the card. Margaret and Miller. Someone's grandmother. Someone's mom. They had bought these flowers to honor her memory, and some scumbag had ripped them off the grave to make a quick buck off desperate Valentines. I'm finding him, I said. I'm finding the guy. I ran to my car. I have a dashcam. It records on a loop. I drove past the stand yesterday at 4:30 p.m. The footage should still be there. I pulled the SD card. I ran inside and plugged it into my laptop. I scrolled through the files. File name 2026-02-14-1630. I clicked play. The video played. My car was moving down Route 9. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the road. There it was. On the right shoulder, a white pickup truck was parked on the grass. The tailgate was down. Buckets of flowers were arranged on the ground. A hand-painted sign read, Valentine Special $20. I paused the video. I looked at the background. Directly behind the truck, through a gap in the trees, was a wrought iron fence. And beyond the fence, rows of gray stones. The cemetery. He had set up shop directly across the street from the scene of the crime. He wasn't even hiding. He was literally transferring the inventory from the graves to the trunk of my car across 2 lanes of traffic. I zoomed in on the truck. It was an older model Ford F-150. White. Rust on the wheel wells. The license plate was partially obscured by the open tailgate, but I could make out the first 3 characters. K42. Then I looked at the seller. He was a heavy-set guy in a flannel shirt and a beanie. He was handing flowers to a line of 3 cars. He looked normal. He looked like a guy selling corn or firewood. But then I saw the passenger. The passenger door was open. A second man was sitting in the cab, counting cash. I zoomed in until the pixels blurred. He wasn't wearing flannel. He was wearing a black suit. A white shirt. A black tie. He was dressed for a funeral. Or, he was dressed for work at a funeral. I took a screenshot. I cropped it. I enhanced the contrast. On the lapel of his jacket, there was a pin. It was small, gold, and blurry. But it looked like a wreath. I opened a new tab. I searched for Oakwood Memorial Services staff uniform. The images loaded. The staff wore black suits, white shirts, and gold lapel pins in the shape of a wreath. It's an inside job, I whispered. The guy in the truck worked there. He knew the schedule. He knew which graves had the best flowers. He probably helped carry them out to the grave site, waited for the family to leave, and then loaded them right back into the truck. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter air. This wasn't opportunistic. This was organized. I grabbed my phone. I opened Reddit. I went to r/RBI, the Reddit Bureau of Investigation. It's a community of internet sleuths who live for this kind of thing. Title: Found a funeral prayer card in a Valentine's bouquet bought from a roadside stand. Dashcam footage shows seller parked across from the cemetery. Need help identifying the truck/location. I uploaded the photos. The card. The dashcam still. The close-up of the suit guy. I hit post. Then I called the police. I want to report a theft, I told the dispatcher. And grave desecration. Sir, unless you are the family of the deceased, you can't report the theft of the items, the dispatcher said, sounding bored. I have the property, I said. I have the stolen goods in my backyard. And I have video of the seller. And I think an employee of the cemetery is involved. That got her attention. An employee? Yes. He's in the video wearing the uniform. I'll send an officer to take a statement. Do not touch the flowers. They are evidence. I went back outside. I looked at the shattered mess on the patio. I couldn't touch them if I wanted to. I waited. My phone pinged. A Reddit notification. User, Cemetery Hawk. Comment, I know that gate. That's Oakwood Cemetery on Route 9. My grandmother is buried there. That fence is distinctive. Another ping. User, grieving granddaughter. Comment, wait. My grandmother's funeral was yesterday at Oakwood. Her name was Margaret Ann Miller. Is that her card? My heart stopped. I typed back instantly. Me, yes. I am so sorry. I found it in the bouquet. I didn't know. Please DM me. She messaged me within seconds. DM, I bought that arrangement. It was a spray of white lilies and orchids. It cost $300. We left it on the grave at noon yesterday. Are you telling me someone stole it? Me, I think they stole everything. The guy had buckets full of them. Dozens of arrangements. He was selling them for $20. DM, I'm going there. I'm going to the cemetery right now. My dad is driving. We are going to kill him. Don't kill him, I typed. The police are on the way to my house. Meet me there. 20 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. Officer Ramirez. He looked skeptical until I showed him the card. Margaret Miller, Ramirez muttered. Okay. That's specific. Then, a second car pulled up. A sedan. A young woman and an older man jumped out. They looked furious. They looked heartbroken. Where is it? The woman demanded, storming up the driveway. Where is her card? I handed it to her. She looked at it. She burst into tears. It's hers, she sobbed, handing it to her father. Dad, it's hers. The one we put on the wreath. The father looked at me. He was a big guy, shaking with rage. You bought this? I didn't know, I said, holding up my hands. I thought it was a flower stand. As soon as we found the card, we called. He looked at me. He saw the genuine horror on my face. He nodded. Okay, he said. Okay. Where was the stand? Route 9, I said. Across from the gate. Let's go, Ramirez said. If they operate on weekends, maybe they're still there. Or maybe there's evidence left behind. We formed a caravan. The police cruiser, the family, and me. We drove to the cemetery. The stand was gone. The grass on the shoulder was trampled down where the truck had been. There were tire tracks in the mud. Officer Ramirez pulled into the cemetery entrance. The gate was open. We drove to the fresh graves section. It was a scene of devastation. 6 fresh mounds of dirt. All of them bare. There were footprints in the mud around the graves. Boot prints. Deep ones. Drag marks where heavy wreaths had been hauled away. The father walked to Margaret's grave. He fell to his knees. They took it all, he whispered. They picked her clean. I felt sick. Officer, I said. The video. The license plate. Ramirez watched the dashcam footage on my phone again. He paused it on the plate. K42-9L. I can run a partial, he said. White Ford F-150. Older model. He got on his radio. The family stood there, staring at the naked earth. It was the most disrespectful thing I had ever seen. 10 minutes later, the radio crackled. Match found. Registered to a Thomas Grady. Address is 402, Elm Street. 2 miles from here. Let's pay him a visit, Ramirez said. We drove to the address. It was a small house with a detached garage. The white truck was in the driveway. Ramirez called for backup. 2 more cruisers arrived. They knocked on the door. A man answered. It was the seller. The flannel guy. Thomas Grady? Ramirez asked. Yeah. We're investigating a theft from Oakwood Cemetery. Thomas's eyes darted to the truck. I don't know nothing about that. We have you on video, Ramirez said. Selling funeral arrangements on the side of the road. Open the truck, Thomas. I don't have to, Thomas said. We can get a warrant, Ramirez said. Or you can open it and maybe we tell the judge you cooperated. Your choice. Thomas sighed. He slumped. He walked to the truck and dropped the tailgate. The bed was full. Not just flowers. It was a graveyard of stolen sentiment. There were wire frames from wreaths that had been stripped. There were ribbons that said, Beloved Mother, and Rest in Peace. There were plastic crosses. There were lanterns. And in the corner, a box. A cardboard box filled with laminated prayer cards that they had pulled out of the arrangements but hadn't bothered to throw away yet. The father lunged. Ramirez held him back. Who is the partner? Ramirez asked Thomas. The guy in the suit. Thomas looked at the ground. My cousin. Kevin. Does Kevin work at the cemetery? Yeah, Thomas mumbled. He's a groundskeeper. He told me when the funerals were. He let me in the back gate at night. Where is Kevin? Inside. Sleeping. They went in. They dragged Kevin out. He was still wearing the black suit pants. They were arrested on the spot. Grave desecration. Grand larceny. Conspiracy. The cemetery manager was called. He arrived looking horrified. He fired Kevin immediately. He promised to replace every single flower arrangement at his own expense. I stood there watching them get cuffed. Kevin was crying. Thomas looked resigned. I walked over to the father. I'm sorry, I said again. It's not your fault, he said. You found them. If you hadn't bought those flowers, we never would have known. We would have just thought the wind blew them away. He shook my hand. I went home. Sarah was waiting. Did they get them? She asked. Yeah. They got them. I showed her the picture of the empty truck bed. Sarah shivered. That is the trashiest thing I have ever heard. Yeah, I agreed. We spent the rest of Valentine's Day cleaning the patio. We swept up the petals. We hosed down the pavers. I went to the store, a real florist this time. I bought a bouquet. Not lilies. Not roses. Just bright, cheerful sunflowers. I put them in a new vase. For the living, I said, setting them on the table. For the living, Sarah agreed. But we didn't just keep them for us. The next day, we drove back to the cemetery. We met the family there. They were placing new flowers on Margaret's grave. I placed my sunflowers next to theirs. "Happy Valentine's Day, Margaret," I whispered. The father smiled at me. It was a sad smile, but it was real. "She liked sunflowers," he said. I drove home feeling lighter. The internet did its thing. The story went viral. The cemetery put up cameras. Security was tightened. And Thomas and Kevin? They're facing 5 years. The judge set bail at $50,000. I hope they like the flowers in the prison yard. I hear they're mostly dandelions. So, tell me. Am I the monster for accidentally buying stolen grave flowers, or did I just help a grandmother get the justice she deserved from beyond the grave?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.